The news of India's contracting GDP competed for public attention with fresh border incursion by the Chinese army, the passing away of former President Pranab Mukherjee, and the continuing obsession with Bollywood actor Sushant Singh Rajput's suicide. One TV anchor even chased away a panelist who wanted to speak about the economy. Instead of asking whether Sushant Singh Rajput's mental health was known to his family or figuring out whether Reha Chakrabarti smokes weed or not, Indians should have spent the week asking tough questions on the nation's economic health. Sure, P. Chidambaram and S.G. Rumurthy commented on the GDP numbers, but through their politically partisan lens, prayer is what many were left, which took off with this invisible hand of God. They morphed the Go Corona Go chant to grow GDP grow. As the world grappled with the lives virus's livelihood question for months and learned to live with the coronavirus, it is now the economic pandemic that plagues us. India didn't manage to flatten the curve, with 5 large states, Maharashtra, Andhra Pradesh, Karnataka, Uttar Pradesh and Tamil Nadu, making up the nation's 62% of active COVID-19 cases, but it definitely flattened the economy. It is the economy, stupid. The Indian economy experienced contraction for the 5th time in its post-independence history, shrinking by 23.9% of the GDP in the April-June quarter, while many just blamed the pandemic. Some did point out that Indian economy was in slowdown for 8 quarters before the coronavirus lockdown hit us. The unique Indian response in the early summer, when the pandemic was a little more than a couple of months of old. Prime Minister Narendra Modi in his characteristic 8 PM address to the nation.
तो क्या कहते हैं ये लोग? ये कहते हैं ये तो एक्ट ऑफ गॉड है। दीदी, ये एक्ट ऑफ गॉड नहीं, ये तो एक्ट ऑफ फ्रॉड है, फ्रॉड।
Rupees 20 lakh crore package to deal with the economic fallout of the coronavirus. As Modi was making the announcement, in almost real time, economists and analysts were questioning the accuracy of those numbers. In the strict public finance sense, the Indian economy never saw those rupees 20 lakh crore. Though nearly 8 months into the pandemic, the country's economic debt reportedly shrink by rupees 20 lakh crore. India's lockdown was one of the most strident in the world, and it's far from the only country to have taken such an unprecedented economic hit. For the same April-June quarter, the US GDP shrunk by 9.1% and the UK's by 20%. What makes India unique, though, is the reaction from the Bharatiya Janata Party and the public at large. While the BJP and its functionaries continue to cite misleading and often wrong data to argue that the pandemic has failed to reason in the India's economic engine, the country's media and the populace are keeping themselves busy by chasing drug dealers following the death case of Sushant Singh Rajput. If that wasn't enough, the focus shifted to how the Indian military had finally taught its Chinese counterpart a lesson at the line of actual control. How bad is it really? In India, if the pandemic's worst victim is the daily wage earner, the only entity with the tools to help them, the central government has really been the helpless. The current GST compensation fiasco has shed light on the Modi's government inability to increase spending at a time when it seems like the only option to revive growth. And a rupees 20 lakh crore blowout during the last quarter means the government has its hands tied more than ever before. It is ironic that since coming to power in 2014, the Modi's government only strategy to revive growth has been to increase its spending. And now when the economy is earning for a fiscal expansion, it really has no space to do so. Both private investment and consumption continue to decline rapidly, and it is hard to imagine any growth revival without their reversal. But who cares? From one of the fastest growing economies in the world, India has now dropped to the 35th spot among the 42 major economies tracked by The Economist. One would expect that such steep fall about capture all the India's public and media attention. The most convincing explanation for this phenomena has been provided by the Nilanjan Sircar's ideas of politics of Vishwas, trust, according to which a large number of Indians support Modi because they believe in his leadership, despite any evidence to the country. As India's economic shrinks and the number of COVID-19 infections surge, one could argue Vishwas is all that is really left.